Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today we have Sulabh Jain with us from Astro Palmistry, and we're going to be discussing about financial astrology through palmistry. So welcome, Sulabh. Namaste.
Yes, namaste. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks too.
Yeah, lovely. Well, thanks for joining us today, and I'm really looking forward to our video on the financial astrology through palmistry.
Yeah, awesome. So I've actually prepared a slideshow. Let me share the screen and then we can sort of jump straight into this. Where are we here? Okay, great. Can you see the slideshow screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what we're talking about today is financial astrology through the lens of palmistry. So I'll be teaching you guys techniques on how to look at someone's hands, make astrology and palmistry predictions on if their company is going to succeed and actually maybe even make a little bit of money on that. So we're going to be looking at the hands of some very well-known CEOs and make predictions on what will happen to their stock price over the next, say, 6 to 12 months. But the whole lens of this is going to be through Jyotish. So it's not just about greed and making money, it's about understanding energy. And that's mostly what I'll be talking about today, the energy side of things, but then we can see how that energy manifests through like a tangible stock price. Okay?
Okay.
So the first question I suppose we really should ask is, can you use Jyotish to make money? And I think I may have already answered that inadvertently. A stock price, for a particular company is just a manifestation of its energy. You've got a number of people trying to buy a stock, a number of people trying to sell a stock, and the price in the middle is just how that energy butts heads with those two bulls and bears going together at it. So the short answer is yes, you can do this, but you have to understand energy. So the second question we should ask then is, should you use Jyotish to make money? And this is a more complex question to answer because for some people, they assume anything dealing with money has to do with greed. And if you're a greedy person, therefore you're not spiritual, therefore you should not use Jyotish techniques to amplify your greed, because then you amplify your bad karma. So if you're a greedy person, then this video probably isn't going to help you much. But if you have pure energy and you want to make money so you can do good for the world, then this is probably going to be a life-changing video for you. I know some people who are using these astrology techniques to make money so they can, set up orphanages or do that type of thing. And I know other people who are doing this sort of work so they can earn enough money that they can look after their family so they can spend the rest of their days meditating. So it all depends on your intentions. If your intentions are right, then what you give out to the world will come back to you in a good way. Whereas if your intentions are greedy and you just want to make money so you can have like a better car than your neighbors, then bad's going to come back to you. So before you go further on this video, make sure your intentions are set right. Okay, and the next question then is, well, we know it can work, we know it should work, or if we should apply it, then the question is, how does it work? And I'll go into this in more detail here in just a little while, once we go through this slideshow. But the general gist of it is every planet has its own energy. Every zodiac sign has its own energy as well. As I said, if we look at like an overall stock price, that's the energy between two opposites of buyers and sellers. So all we have to do is come up with a system to put all four of those variables together. And I'll explain that, as I said, in more detail in just a little bit. But what I'm about to teach you guys works for the stock market. It also works for gambling as well. In fact, I developed this system when I was a university student, and my friends and I would put bets on cricket matches. So using numerology techniques, I could say, in the fourth over of the second ball of the fourth over, a particular bowler would get a wicket. And within an accuracy of like 80 to 90%, we'd be able to get that right. And once my friends found out I could do that, we started betting actual money and just like $2 or $3, $5, that type of thing, because we were students and we didn't have much money then, but it was just enough to buy us dinner and small little treats like that. So the energy of the stock market is pretty much the same as the energy of competition in sports too. You just got to know how to map it. That's what I'm going to teach you. But before we go any further with this, I want to throw out the caveat here that I'm not giving you guys financial advice. So I will be making predictions on specific stocks in just a little while, but I don't want you to take these predictions to the bank and bet your house on it or anything like that. As I said, focus on your own energy. If it's pure, then you'll make money. If it's wrong or off, then you'll lose money. And that's regardless of what I say anyway. So if your karma is good, then you ignore everything I say, you're still going to make money. May not be through what I'm teaching you today, it'll be through some other means, but money will still come to you. Whereas if your karma is bad, then bad will happen to you, even if you ignore or listen to what I say. All right?
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you, Sulabh.
Yep. I'm going to show you guys here the hands of a CEO of a well-known Australian company. This guy's company is listed on the stock market down here. And this picture was taken about 4 years ago. And at the time, this guy was going through a really nasty divorce. He's the sort of business executive who spent his whole life focusing on his work, not enough time on his personal relationships. And so at about the same time he was made CEO, his wife decided to leave him. And she was basically asking for all his money. And this guy, being very career and money driven, was trying to fight that. So they had a at the time this photo was taken, they were going through a very nasty divorce. And I'll ask a question here in just a second. Is this guy good for his company? But before we get to that, you've got to have a look at what's happening in someone's personal life. Because if their marriage is falling apart, then that dysfunction will translate into their work. You see, the CEO of a company, think of him as like the father of all his employees. In fact, probably a better analogy is think of the time when you were growing up. Your father, in most traditional families, was like the boss of your family, right? Whatever dad said went. And if your dad went through like a bad planetary transit or a bad dasha, let's say Saturn came in and caused him depression, your father's depression would affect the whole family. It would affect your mom, it would affect you and everyone. And so here's the linchpin for the stability of your family. And in a similar vein, the CEO of a company is the father of all his employees. So if he's got like a personal marriage crisis going on, that energy is going to affect his work or his decision-making ability. And that in turn will affect the entire company. You know, there'll be employees leaving because this guy's unhappy with his wife, which is something that has nothing to do with him. But that's the way this energy replicates. So then the big question is this guy good for his company? And I want you guys to have a look at this triangle that forms right in the center of his hand. This in traditional palmistry is known as the triangle of Rahu, or Rahu's triangle. It's sometimes called the Mount of Rahu. And Rahu is one of those planets that creates expansion, but it does it very quickly. So if you think of the other planets that create growth, like the sun or Jupiter, they do organic growth. So whatever growth they give you is sustainable and it happens slowly and steadily over time. Rahu gives you explosive growth, but it's rarely sustainable. So if you have a strong Rahu triangle in your hand, you're going to grow quickly, but then you'll fall down quickly too. And that diagonal line through the center of that triangle, that's a line for Saturn. And Saturn is a planet that also creates growth, but it knocks you down too. So Saturn's the sort of planet that destroys your house and then gets you to rebuild it. So it's more of a growth through rebirth type of dynamic with Saturn, whereas Rahu doesn't care so much about that. It just builds a house and doesn't care about the stability or the structure or anything else. So when these two mounts get together, when the Saturn line goes through the Rahu mount, you create two areas here, area A and area B. And this whole Rahu triangle tells us about your attitudes towards money. And area B is your attitudes towards expenditure. So if you have a big area in that sort of quadrilateral type shape, that means you'll spend more money than you earn, or more or less you'll spend the majority of money that comes in for you. And if you have a really small area A, that's the area for savings. So if that area is small, then you have trouble saving money. Okay, so small area A is very bad on the hands of a CEO because that's a sign of someone who's just internally dysfunctional with money, just doesn't have the capacity to save it. And if that dysfunction comes into their company with this guy as, the father of the company, then the company as a whole will start to run into the ground because they're not able to create value or create income for themselves.
Mhm.
And if you compare this on even a numerical basis, we can see that the area of B is almost 3 times the size of area A. So if this guy earns $100, he'll only manage to save about $25 out of that. That's basically less than taxes, right? So he's always going to be behind the 8 ball financially.
Mhm.
And when this guy got divorced from his wife, she actually took away, I think, 80% of his money, assets and everything. So it's very close to that A-B ratio over here. This is just a pattern he'll go through his entire life. He'll make a lot, but then somehow he'll lose a lot too. So the short answer to the question, is it good for his company? No. And that's just because he's got his own internal dysfunctions and he's making it worse by sending bad energy out to his ex-wife. All right. So the general, yes, sorry.
So you said he's sending bad energy to his ex-wife, and is that why the dysfunction's coming up?
Exactly. So remember what I was saying before, the energy you send out to the world is the energy that comes back to you.
Absolutely.
He was fighting the ex-wife by trying to not give her any money at all.
Right.
In his mind, he thought, I'm the big shot CEO. I earn all the money. She didn't do anything, so she shouldn't get anything. But the courts disagreed and they gave her most of what he had.
Mm.
Yeah. And that company of his, by the way, after that photo is 4 years old and COVID hit about 2 years ago, well, a year and a half, 2 years ago, this company's been on the verge of bankruptcy since then. It's the only reason it's surviving is because of government handouts right now. So you can see his own personal energy translating into the overall company.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yep. But the bigger theme here is, as it says on the slide, we change the world and the world changes us. So again, if you send bad energy or bad intentions or thoughts out to someone else, that's going to come back and hurt you. That's its own transactional energy. But money is also energy. And as I said before, planets are their own energy and zodiac houses are their own energy too. If you just figure out a way to put all of these together, then you can make predictions on the stock markets too. And so one prediction I made last year, when Saturn transited into Capricorn, I made the prediction that the stock markets would fall over. This was just before, I think in January, I made the prediction that it would happen in March. And in March, all the world governments shut down their economies and the stock market fell off a cliff. The rationale there is that Capricorn rules things like banks and the financial sector. And Saturn is a planet that creates destruction almost everywhere it goes. So Saturn, or its energy of restriction and destruction in Capricorn, which represents banks, was going to wreck the financial sector. And it was a very simple transit that you could have a look at that. And by the way, in Jupiter, I think, so the market crashed in March from memory, and in April, Jupiter came into Capricorn. So at a time where the economies and the stock market was going down, I then made the prediction that the markets are actually going to start going up now. And I don't know about you guys on your channel, but I got lots of trolls on mine. And they kept telling me, no way, the market's going up. We're going to be in lockdown for the whole year and blah, blah, blah. And I just said, look, Jupiter in Capricorn is going to create expansion. It will balance out the effects of Saturn. And at that time, the stock market went up to pretty much all-time highs in most countries. So again, just a single simple transit can give you that information. Another prediction I made last year when Rahu transited into Taurus, I think from memory that was about September, I made the prediction that the cryptocurrencies are going to skyrocket. So Rahu is a planet that's very strong with technology, and Taurus, being the natural second house, rules things like the financial sector. So technology growth in the financial sector, which is basically Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these things, they would start to skyrocket. And they basically have. I think just before the transit, Bitcoin was like $7,000 or $8,000. As of today, it's something like $60,000. So it's gone up a huge amount just by tracking that one simple transit. So this is how you look at energy. You look at the energy of a zodiac house. You look at the energy of a planet. Does it create expansion or does it destroy whatever house it goes into? You can put the two of those together and form a very neat prediction that way. All right. So we're going to have a look at the hands of some CEOs. But before I do that, I want to give you guys a very quick lesson on Astro Palmistry. So Astro Palmistry, as the name suggests, is a combination of astrology and palmistry. And basically, every phalange on your fingers represents a different zodiac sign. So you have 3 phalanges on each finger. You've got 4 fingers, and 3 times 4 is 12. So that becomes each of the 12 zodiac houses. So on your index finger, you have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. Mm-hmm. And what we're looking for over here is vertical or horizontal lines. So if you have, for example, vertical lines in the area of Taurus, then when a planet that creates expansion comes into Taurus, that will create good things for you because vertical lines represent good things. Conversely, if you have horizontal lines there, they create bad malefic energy. So if you get a malefic planet that goes into Taurus, that's going to hurt you. Okay, and that's for you personally, but if you look at the hands of a CEO, someone who rules their company, if you get good energy there, then an expansion planet there will expand their company. If they have horizontal lines there, then their company goes down a notch. Okay, so Aries, Taurus, Gemini are over there. Cancer, Leo, and Virgo are on the ring finger. Then Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius on the pinky, and Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces on the middle finger. So the zodiac kind of runs through there. And again, you can look at your own hands or the hands of CEOs on the newspaper or magazines on TV just to make your own predictions. But I'll give you an example over here. This is the hands of Elon Musk. And before we look at the vertical lines that he has in the Taurus area, I want you to have a look at his Rahu triangle. You see how the area A is even smaller in proportion than that CEO I talked about before, the guy whose energy is ruining his company. Elon Musk is really, really, really bad at managing money. Now, you give him $100, he'll manage to blow $90 and then use the $10 to somehow make money. So he's not the sort of CEO that you would trust your life savings to. But if you look at the vertical lines in Taurus, that means whenever a planet like Rahu goes into there, that's going to create expansion for his companies. And it's going to be temporary. So one of my predictions last year was that Tesla's share price is going to start to skyrocket when Rahu moves into Taurus. At that time, the Tesla share price was about $300. And within a few weeks, it went up to $880. And as of today, it's about $909. And by the way, these are all in US dollars too, by the way, just like there's the standard there. Yeah. But we can see that Tesla created that expansion. That Rahu created the expansion for Tesla. So when Rahu leaves Taurus, that's going to bring down the share price of Tesla too. So that's going to be, I think off the top of my head, in March or April of next year. We're expecting bad things for this company at that time. But the other thing to notice is because he has such strong energy in Taurus, and Taurus being like the financial sector, he'll make most of his money in finance. And so the first company he created that really hit it big was PayPal, which is basically like an online payment system. So in the financial sector. And even the Tesla company, that's made most of its money, not by selling cars, but by buying and holding Bitcoin. So he's not a manufacturer, he's not a genius inventor, he's just a guy who's got lucky with a few planetary transits, and he's just really, really bad at managing the luck that he's got. So we got to keep an eye on this into the future.
So if someone has Tesla shares, they should be careful, right? When is it? Yeah, it can go down after when Rahu leaves Taurus.
Exactly. Yep. So again, not financial advice. Don't buy and sell off what I'm saying. But what I think will happen is at about March or April, it'll fall off. Between now and then, it should keep going up because Rahu is still in Taurus. Okay. Now, this is the hands of Chris Larson. He's the CEO of the Ripple company, and they've created the XRP token. So this is a cryptocurrency. And what I'm explaining about what applies to Tesla shares also applies to cryptocurrencies. And this guy's got a really strong energy in the Leo sector. So we can see 3 vertical lines there. And earlier in the year, I made the prediction that when the sun comes into Leo, that was, I think, late July or into August after, so I'm sorry, what am I saying? Yeah, late July into August, that the XRP token price would start to skyrocket. And over that 1 month, I think it doubled or maybe 2.5 times just in that one period alone. So we can see that this guy's energy creates that expansion in his company's share price too. But the other thing to notice is that because he's got a strong Leo, let's just say, just as a pseudonym there, that his ascendant is Leo, then he's got Saturn in Capricorn, which is his 6th house. And the Ripple company is currently being sued by the American government. So think of Leo as representing the government. Think of the 6th house as representing lawsuits. So he's got that problem because his price, the price of XRP, isn't going up as much as Bitcoin or all the others because of that Saturn influence in Capricorn. So when that leaves, this thing's going to take off like a rocket, basically. It's going to outperform Tesla, outperform even Bitcoin there. So this is one to keep an eye on. And the third example I'll give you is of Jeff Bezos. He's the CEO of Amazon. And personally, this is not a person I like. There's a lot of things on his hands that you can say this is a horrible human being. And I don't normally like saying those things about people, but this guy's a rare example. There's a lot like Bill Gates. The surface level person is very different to who the actual human is. When you look at someone's hands or birth chart, you can see who the human is as opposed to what the PR spin is about them. But what we can see on his hands in the Pisces sector at the bottom of the middle finger, he's got 5 vertical lines there. So what that means is whenever a good or benefic planet transits into Pisces, his share price of Amazon will skyrocket. And the next major transit over into Pisces, I think, is going to be Jupiter, taking place in about March of next year. Actually, March, April, roughly when that Taurus transit happens. I'm sorry, when the Rahu transit out of Taurus happens, the Jupiter transit into Pisces is going to happen. That will cause Amazon to skyrocket even more. So as of today, I think it's around about $3,350, give or take a little bit. And it's going to go up even more over a 12-month period whilst Jupiter goes through Pisces. So even though he's got bad energy and he's not the best human being on the planet, his company is going to do well. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And those are the predictions I kind of want to leave you guys with, more or less just to get just to get an idea of what's happening with these shares and also understand the energy on markets.
Thank you so much. Cool. Thank you so much, Sulabh. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you for giving us the insight.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think 95% of your predictions have been came true. I've been following your channel. And if anybody has not followed his channel, I'll leave a link below, Chariot Palmistry. Check it out. It's really nice, interesting videos that he puts out, Sulabh. Thank you, Sulabh. And I hope you guys all enjoyed the video.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.